Section 14 of The Light That Failed. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Richard Kilmer. The Light That Failed by Rudyard Kipling. Chapter 9, Part 2. Dick paused, amazed at the threshold. For on Torpenhow's sofa lay a girl asleep and breathing heavily. The little cheap sailor hat, the blue and white dress, fitter for June than for February, dabbled with mud at the skirts, the jacket trimmed with imitation astrakhan and ripped at the shoulder seams, the 1 11-penny umbrella, and above all the disgraceful condition of the kid-topped boots, declared all things. "Oh, I say, old man, this is too bad. You mustn't bring this sort up here. They steal things from rooms. It looks bad, I admit, but I was coming in after lunch, and she staggered into the hall. I thought she was drunk at first, but it was collapse. I couldn't leave her as she was, so I brought her up here and gave her your lunch. She was fainting from want of food. She went fast asleep the minute she had finished. I know something of that complaint. She's been living on sausages, I suppose. Torp, you should have handed her over to a policeman for presuming to faint in a respectable house. Poor little wretch. Look at the face. There isn't an ounce of immorality in it. Only folly, slack, fatuous, feeble, futile folly. It's a typical head. Do you notice how the skull begins to show through the flesh padding on the face and cheekbone? What a cold-blooded barbarian it is. Don't hit a woman when she's down. Can't we do anything? She was simply dropping with starvation. She almost fell into my arms, and when she got to the food she ate like a wild beast. It was horrible. I can give her money, which she would probably spend in drinks. Is she going to sleep forever?" The girl opened her eyes and glared at the men between terror and effrontery. "Feeling better?" said Torpenhow. "Yes, thank you. There aren't many gentlemen that are as kind as you are. Thank you." "When did you leave service?" said Dick, who had been watching the scarred and chapped hands. "How did you know I was in service?" "I was. General servant. I didn't like it." "And how do you like being your own mistress?" "Do I look as if I liked it?" "I suppose not. One moment. Would you be good enough to turn your face to the window?" The girl obeyed, and Dick watched her face keenly. So keenly that she made as if to hide behind Torpenhow. "The eyes have it," said Dick, walking up and down. "They are superb eyes for my business, and after all, every head depends on the eyes. This has been sent from heaven to make up for what was taken away. Now the weekly strain's off my shoulders. I can get to work in earnest. Evidently sent from heaven. Yes. Raise your chin a little, please. Gently, old man, gently. You're scaring someone out of her wits," said Torpenhow, who could see the girl trembling. "Don't let him hit me. Oh, please, don't let him hit me. I've been hit cruel today because I spoke to a man. Don't let him look at me like that. He's regular wicked, that one. Don't let him look at me like that, neither. Oh, I feel as if I hadn't nothing on when he looks at me like that." The overstrained nerves in the frail body gave way, and the girl wept like a little child and began to scream. Dick threw open the window, and Torpenhow flung the door back. "There you are," said Dick soothingly. "My friend here can call for a policeman, and you can run through that door. Nobody is going to hurt you." The girl sobbed convulsively for a few minutes, and then tried to laugh. "Nothing in the world to hurt you. Now listen to me for a minute. I'm what they call an artist by profession. You know what artists do? They draw things in red and black ink on the pop shop labels." "I dare say. I haven't risen to pop shop labels yet. Those are done by academicians. I want to draw your head." "What for?" "Because it's pretty. That is why you will come to the room across the landing 3 times a week at 11 in the morning. And I'll give you 3 quid a week just for sitting still and being drawn, and there's a quid on account." "For nothing? Oh, my!" The girl turned the sovereign in her hand, and with more foolish tears, "Ain't neither of you two gentlemen afraid of my bilking you?" "No. Only ugly girls do that. Try and remember this place. And, by the way, what's your name?" "I'm Bessick, Bessie. It's no use giving the rest. Bessie Broke, Stone Broke, if you like. What's your names? But there, no one ever gives the real ones." Dick consulted Torpenhow with his eyes. "My name's Helder, and my friend's called Torpenhow, and you must be sure to come here." "Where do you live?" "South the water. 1 room, 5 and 6 pence a week. Aren't you making fun of me about that 3 quid? You'll see later on. And Bessie, next time you come, remember, you needn't wear the paint. It's bad for the skin, and I have all the colors you'll be likely to need." Bessie withdrew, scrubbing her cheek with a ragged pocket handkerchief. The two men looked at each other. "You're a man," said Torpenhow. "I'm afraid I've been a fool. It isn't our business to run about the earth reforming Bessie Brokes, and a woman of any kind has no right on this landing." "Perhaps she won't come back." "She will, if she thinks she can get food and warmth here. I know she will, worse luck. But remember, old man, she isn't a woman. She's my model, and be careful." "The idea! She's a dissolute little scarecrow, a gutter snippet, and nothing more." "So you think. Wait till she's been fed a little and freed from fear. The fair type recovers itself very quickly. You won't know her in a week or two. When that abject fear has died out of her eyes, she'll be too happy and smiling for my purposes." "But surely you're not taking her out of charity, to please me?" "I'm not in the habit of playing with hot coals to please anybody. She has been sent from heaven, as I may have remarked before, to help me with my melancholia." "Never heard a word about the lady before." "What's the use of having a friend if you must sling your notions at him in words? You ought to know what I'm thinking about." "You've heard me grunt lately?" "Even so. But grunts means anything in your language, from bad baccy to wicked dealers. And I don't think I've been much in your confidence for some time. It was a high and soulful grunt. You ought to have understood that it meant the melancholia." Dick walked Torpenhow up and down the room, keeping silence. Then he smote him in the ribs. "Now don't you see it? Bessie's abject futility, and the terror in her eyes, welded to 1 or 2 details in the way of sorrow that have come under my experience lately. Likewise some orange and black, 2 keys of each, but I can't explain on an empty stomach. It sounds mad enough. You'd better stick to your soldiers, Dick, instead of maundering about heads and eyes and experiences." "Think so?" Dick began to dance on his heels, singing, "They're as proud as a turkey when they hold the ready cash. You ought to hear 'em when they laugh and joke. They're tricky and they're funny when they've got the ready money. I'll but see 'em when they're all stone broke." Then he sat down to pour out his heart to Maisie in a 4-sheet letter of counsel and encouragement, and registered an oath that he would get to work with an undivided heart as soon as Bessie should reappear. The girl kept her appointment, unpainted and unadorned, afraid and overbold by turns. When she found that she was merely expected to sit still, she grew calmer, and criticized the appointments of the studio with freedom and some point. She liked the warmth and the comfort and the release from fear of physical pain. Dick made 2 or 3 studies of her head in monochrome, but the actual notion of the melancholia would not arrive. "What a mess you keep your things in," said Bessie some days later, when she felt herself thoroughly at home. "I suppose your clothes are just as bad. Gentlemen never think what buttons and tape are made for. I buy things to wear, and wear 'em till they go to pieces. I don't know what Torpenhow does." Bessie made diligent inquiry in the latter's room, and unearthed a bale of disreputable socks. "Some of these I'll mend now," she said, "and some I'll take home. Do you know, I sit all day long at home, doing nothing, just like a lady, and no more noticing them other girls in the house than if they was so many flies. I don't have any unnecessary words, but I put 'em down quick, I can tell you, when they talk to me. No, it's quite nice these days. I lock my door, and they can only call me names through the keyhole, and I sit inside, just like a lady, mending socks, Mr. Torpenhow wears his socks out both ends at once. 3 quid a week from me and the delights of my society. No socks mended. Nothing from Torp except a nod on the landing now and again. And all his socks mended. Bessie is very much a woman, thought Dick, and he looked at her between half-shut eyes. Food and rest had transformed the girl, as Dick knew they would. "What are you looking at me like that for?" she said quickly. "Don't. You look regular bad when you look that way. You don't think much of me, do you?" "That depends on how you behave." Bessie behaved beautifully, only it was difficult at the end of a sitting to bid her go out into the grey streets. She very much preferred the studio and a big chair by the stove, with some socks in her lap as an excuse for delay. Then Torpenhow would come in, and Bessie would be moved to tell strange and wonderful stories of her past, and still stranger ones of her present improved circumstances. She would make them tea, as though she had a right to make it, and once or twice on these occasions Dick caught Torpenhow's eyes fixed on the trim little figure, and because Bessie's flittings about the room made Dick ardently long for Maisie, he realized whither Torpenhow's thoughts were tending. And Bessie was exceedingly careful of the condition of Torpenhow's linen. She spoke very little to him, but sometimes they talked together on the landing. "I was a great fool," Dick said to himself. "I know what red firelight looks like when a man's tramping through a strange town, and ours is a lonely, selfish sort of life at the best. I wonder Maisie doesn't feel that sometimes. But I can't order Bessie away. That's the worst of beginning things. One never knows where they stop." One evening, after a sitting prolonged to the last limit of the light, Dick was roused from a nap by a broken voice in Torpenhow's room. He jumped to his feet. "Now what ought I to do? It looks foolish to go in. Oh, bless you, Binky!" The little terrier thrust Torpenhow's door open with his nose, and came out to take possession of Dick's chair. The door swung wide unheeded, and Dick, across the landing, could see Bessie in the half-light, making her little supplication to Torpenhow. She was kneeling by his side, and her hands were clasped across his knee. I know," she said thickly. "'Tisn't right of me to do this, but I can't help it. And you were so kind, and you never took any notice of me, and I've mended all your things so carefully, I did. Oh, please, 'tisn't as if I was asking you to marry me. I wouldn't think of it. But couldn't you take and live with me till Miss Right comes along? I'm only Miss Wrong, I know, but I'd work my hands to the bare bones for you, and I'm not ugly to look at. Say you will." Dick hardly recognized Torpenhow's voice in reply. "But look here, it's no use. I'm liable to be ordered off anywhere at a minute's notice if a war breaks out. At a minute's notice, dear." "What does that matter? Until you go, then. Until you go. 'Tisn't much I'm asking. And you don't know how good I can cook." She had put an arm around his neck and was drawing his head down. "Until I go, then." "Torp," said Dick across the landing. He could hardly steady his voice. "Come here a minute, old man. I'm in trouble. Heaven send he'll listen to me." There was something very like an oath from Bessie's lips. She was afraid of Dick, and disappeared down the staircase in a panic. But it seemed an age before Torpenhow entered the studio. He went to the mantelpiece, buried his head on his arms, and groaned like a wounded bull. "What the devil right have you to interfere?" he said at last. "Who's interfering with which? Your own sense told you long ago you couldn't be such a fool. It was a tough rack, St. Anthony, but you're all right now. I ought to have seen her moving about these rooms as if they belonged to her. That's what upset me. It gives a lonely man a sort of hankering, doesn't it?" said Torpenhow, piteously. "Now you talk sense. It does. But since you aren't in a condition to discuss the disadvantages of double housekeeping, do you know what you're going to do? I don't. I wish I did. You're going away for a season, on a brilliant tour to regain tone. You're going to Brighton, or Scarborough, or Prawl Point, to see the ships go by, and you're going at once. Isn't it odd? I'll take care of Binky, but out you go immediately. Never resist the devil. He holds the bank. Fly from him. Pack your things and go." "I believe you're right. Where shall I go?" "And you call yourself a special correspondent? Pack first and inquire afterwards." An hour later Torpenhow was dispatched into the night for a hansom. "You'll probably think of some place to go while you're moving," said Dick. "On to Euston to begin with, and, oh yes, get drunk tonight." He returned to the studio and lighted more candles, for he found the room very dark. "Oh, you Jezebel, you futile little Jezebel, won't you hate me tomorrow? Binky, come here." Binky turned over on his back on the hearth rug, and Dick stirred him with a meditative foot. "I said she was not immoral. I was wrong. She said she could cook. That showed premeditated sin. Oh, Binky, if you are a man you will go to perdition, but if you are a woman and say that you can cook, you will go to a much worse place." End of Section 14. Recording by Richard Kilmer, Rio Medina, Texas.